What's up, everybody? All right, we're going to do a little bit of foliage render this afternoon. Do a little hangout, do a little whatever. Answer some questions if anybody's got questions. Don't know how long we'll do this. We'll just see. All right. So we're working on Carpet Creator. The coolest last thing for Wind Reactor, which does a bunch of nonsense. I mean, Wind Reactor does a bunch of nonsense. The carpet thing doesn't do so much nonsense. The carpet thing's pretty straightforward. Okay, but let me recap it for you. What this is going to let you do is build carpets that you can use the foliage renderer shaders to align to your mesh, thereby dramatically reducing your detail counts. Because I know many of you have tens of millions of grass instances on your terrains. And I know that's my fault because I gave you that power. It's in fact the exact power I sold you. Sorry. But loading terrain data is the slowest part, right, of the whole FR stack. So if we could turn our tens of millions of grasses into 100,000 grasses, huge speed up, right? So this is a tool I've needed. I've built kind of like ad hoc tools a couple times. I think I shared in the Discord. Um, like a VR billboardy grass I had done at one point. This will give you all the tools you need to do that. And it will give me a way to just have a place to go when I need this kind of thing. Because as we all know, laziness is the true mother of invention. You don't get Photoshop out of necessity, right? And name me a better invention than Photoshop. I dare you. Okay. All right. So what this is doing, we have a bug in here we're going to try to fix next, but short term, what this lets us do is it lets us specify a number of meshes and materials, the size of the carpet we want to output. So how many squares in world units? And then we can append some specific data, and then we can preserve channels. So here we're going to just set size 10. We're just using the basic grass out of the FR thing as a test bed. Encode pivot to color. So this will take the local pivot position of each mesh, right? So if you imagined these were all individual grass game objects that we had put down in here, boop, 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 right? They'd all have their own transform. They'd all be at some local position. This will take those coordinates of their local position as if they were parented to the final thing, and it will bake that number out as their mesh color, right? Can't do float fours and UVs in Unity. It assumes UVs are float twos. So we'll just bake it into color. Then we don't have to be cute. Okay. We can also bake the index into UV1, right? So every grass instance we put down has an index, right? Like it's in an array or a list or whatever. We can bake that in to the final mesh, which you could use for all sorts of shader side shenanigans. Hey, I want to do dynamic detail or whatever in my shader. I want to colorize stuff randomly based on the index number, right? We'll hash off the index number and tweak the colors. There you go. And then finally, we have apply random rotation. So here, they're all rotated the same way. This is useful if you want to billboard, right? So if you just have a bunch of quads here, you'd want those all to start facing the same direction. And then you would use the local pivot plus the pivot of the mesh itself to get your actual world space position, and then, work from your camera position and do your billboarding. But for most of you who just have regular old clumps, here you go. Shazam. Now, even better, if these all use the same shader, it will automatically atlas for you and spit out all the textures uniformly. Super cool. That's the promise of this tool. That's also the bug of this tool right now that we're going to work on. All right. So, but before but I got to head myself. I got to tell you the rest of the settings. Don't panic. Okay. Preserve channels. This is stuff that's in the original meshes that you want to keep. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So, if you've got textures like we do in this case, we'll want to preserve UVs. If we've got normals, we'll want to preserve normals. Um, Now, if you're like in your shader, you're just like forcing the normals up, like you do on grass a lot. Save a little memory right here. Turn this off. Don't do this. Just get rid of this one, right? Don't preserve normals, but do preserve normals because we have a thing. Now you'll notice every time I change a setting, I can't remember if I said this before. I was recording a video and then I hit the bug and then I was like, "Ah, I'll just go live and do the thing." So I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself already. Some of you are going to join late. Some of you aren't going to go back in time. You never know. Most of you will watch this later, though. I know how the internet works. I've been there before. Um, I can't come up with a reason to like let you set a seed in here. Almost all the foliage renderer tools let you set a seed though, so maybe that's the thing. Okay, but what we wanted to check next is we want to make sure that these rocks, that's foliage renderer lit, and this grass, foliage renderer lit. Okay, good. We're using the same shader. So what we want to do here is we want to like spawning, like making a thing like this that's a bunch of grass. Great. That eliminates a whole bunch of details. But we could eliminate even more details because a lot of you have like a sparse clump, a really lush clump, a kind of dead grass clump. And so you've got three separate details in your terrain, right? All doing their thing. And they're just sparsely intermingled for variety's sake, right? What if we just had one carpet that had all those things baked into it? Wouldn't that be better? Yes, it would. That would be way better. So for this example, because I just want to use stuff that's handy in the foliage renderer itself, I want to use a rock, but I got to give it the right material. All mesh targets must use the same shader. Oh, that's very smart of you. Did I drag the wrong one? There we go. So see, now they're using the right shader, but so now you can see we've got pebbles and we've got this, and I need a general density slider. So let's do general density slider first. For those of you playing along at home, stop messing with the scene. Come on. Oh, it's docked for some reason. What kind of psychopath would dock their whole window and maximize it? Ugh, gross. All right, so we've added the slider here. Let's see, new mesh configuration, indent level. I don't know why I didn't name of these. Some of this I had the AI right. That their AI. It's cool. I if you design your if you architect your code sensibly, which Foliage Renderer really fits this pattern of like being very modular and having lots of examples of how things should work. AI is really good at building new providers. So like if you're like, hey, I need to do a custom foliage provider thing, like it's you can just here's provider base, here's the detail provider, here's an example of a terrain detail provider. Make me one that pulls from some other array. Really good. I'd encourage you to do that. And we just do density slider here. And then we always say true. Okay. Now, let's ask ourselves. Oh, that's silly. Where do we do the actual work for this goofy thing? I don't remember. Generate preview. Okay, we don't care about materials yet. Okay. Instance count does get cached. Cool. Target gives me a random one out of here. Oh, you know what? I think that'll do it. Now, this should give us a range slider anyway because we tagged it. Perfecto. And you've got individual spawn weights here, so you can still control how likely you are to get one versus the other. Got to make sure that that's actually working the right way. But now we got a density slider. Good, 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 good. Okay. So now what we've got to do is figure out why our preview gets hosed. Okay. Create an atlas for the property. Preview material that set texture. This is the thing about when you work on a project sporadically, it's hard to remember the ancient texts. The ancient texts, as we say. All right, so this is suspicious to me. Because this is just randomly picking from our given targets. This isn't really accounting for. So before we get into that, let's go private mesh target, get weighted target. Okay. Float total weight. I'm going to put this right here because I can't remember what any of these things are called. Okay. I tend to write out for loops instead of for each. It's a kind of a training scar, you might say, of old Unity. So for each is used to allocate in old .NET, and Unity was on like a very old version of .NET for a long time. And so this was like a thing that like even, like you'd get seasoned engineers who weren't game people and they'd be like for each and all over the place, be like, dude, you're allocating memory. Quit it. Knock it off. Same thing with caching this value. The compiler may be smart enough to solve this now, but I don't trust it. I don't trust it. As you know, one of my favorite catchphrases is never upgrade. All right, so we want to say total weight plus equals target dot targets a dot spawn weight. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to get a float random want to get a random value in there, and then we want to say for int a equals 0. We want to loop through these, and we want to say we want to look at the rolled value, right? So basically, if we look here, right, this one goes up to 8, and this one goes up to 0.2. Nope, 0.5. So our total weight here, let's just make these whole numbers because it'll be easier to make sense. Right. About 20% of the time. Now that's not exactly right. I'm not saying 20% of the spawn things will be rocks. It's just because it's random. It's just less likely. Right. So we roll a random number between 0 and 10 because that's our total weight. You'd add up all the things in the list. So if we roll a 9, we want to get to here, right? We want to say like, oh, it's bigger than my thing. Skip it. But we want to count the elapsed weight. If the elapsed weight is greater than the random, then we stop. Yeah, and that's the one we keep. And if somehow we get out of there, which we never should, but just in case, we'll fall back to that one. Okay, so then where do we get this from? Right here. There we go. Now we got more grasses than we got rocks. Cool. Still a lot of rocks, but whatever. We're not picky. Okay. What are we doing next? We got our rocks. We got to figure out what's up with the materials. Okay. Okay, so we get out of the dictionary what our UV remap is for the target material. Should this be by material? Yes, it should, because okay, that's just the output. So we make a list of all the distinct materials. We make a dictionary that maps the materials to their new rect. Very good. If it's greater than 1, we take the shared shader. They all have to be the same shader. We're not getting that cute. You want to do goofy stuff, you got to figure that out. But FRDS is so feature rich, you probably be fine. And the basic FR shader probably gives you what you need also too. Like, what do you need for details? Wind and align to mesh, and you got that in there. And lighting, you got some normal options. Pretty basic, but that's about all you need. Grid dimension, seal to int, this, blah, fine. That seems okay. Maybe we'll come back to that though, because I'm a little brain tired. This is like the 4th separate project I've had to work on today. Oh boy, and it's Saturday. Rip. Okay. For each property, we do the thing. We get the atlas texture. Create an atlas for the property. Preview material, then we set the thing. Okay, now we should end up Okay, this is just a fallback just in case. Then we set our remap here. Okay, so I suspect our mesh is simply not getting the preview material assigned. No, it is. Okay, well, we'll work on this. I gotta go juggle. Gotta go juggle goblin children. They're somewhat juggleable. They're getting very large. It's hard to juggle them. But this is coming soon. Thank you for those of you who hung out for a few minutes. It's a little one. It's a little baby live. Maybe we'll finish this tonight. Maybe I'll finish it in just a minute, but I won't be live for it. If there's anything else you want to see in this feature set, let me know. Look at that. It's pretty good. It's gonna save a lot of perf for a bunch of you guys. I know it is. You're gonna have to like, you know, replace a prefab and then crank the density way down. You know what I mean? Right? And I would really encourage you to, once I get this atlasing business figured out, pipe through a bunch of these, right? Just put your scatter stuff in here. Put a few flowers, like whatever comprises the bulk of your field. You can still have flowers as a secondary thing, but then you're, more strategic instead of just like bombing stuff down at random over the whole terrain, right? Let your broad strokes go ahead and pick up a bunch of the variety for you. So, and then I think this is the last tool for Wind Reactor. So going live with it soon, I hope. And then, there'll be a bunch of feedback because it's turned into like a grab bag of useful things. Some of them work better than others. Some of them aren't great with certain workflows. And we're going to have to figure out like kind of what people want and where they want to go with it. And then we'll just iterate from there. So I think the price will start out a little bit cheaper than I had planned. And then it'll go up as we sort of refine, the usual thing. So thanks, everybody. It's just a short one, but I will be back to chat more, and there'll be more previews on the Discord, of course. So we'll see you all soon. Later.